Good evening, everyone. We will now begin the evening service of the Miroku Association headquarters, expressing our gratitude to God and Meishu-sama for blessings and protection received while participating in the construction of paradise on earth. Amatsu-Norito and Miroku Prayer, please stand. Taka amahara ni kamsumarimasu. Kamurogi kamuromi no mikoto mochite. Somemi oya kamu izanagi no mikoto. Tsukushi no himuka no tachi hana no. Odono agi hara ni misogi hara itamo utoki ni narimaseru. Harai dono o kamitachi moro moro no maga goto tsumi kegare o. Harai tamae kiyome tamae toma o sugoto no yoshio. Amatsu kami kunitsu kami yao yorozu no kami tachi tomo ni ame no fuchi koma no mimi urita tete kikoshime seto kashikomi mo maosu. Hiroku o mikami mamori tamae saki hae tamae. Miroku o mikami mamori tamae saki hae tamae. Oshie miyoya nushi no kami mamori tamae saki hae tamae. Oshie miyoya nushi no kami mamori tamae saki hae tamae. Kam nagara tamachi hae mase. Kam nagara tamachi hae mase. Great God of light, creator and giver of all life, in accordance with your divine will, the long age of night draws to an end. Your radiant and divine light, shining ever more brilliantly, awakens the dawn of the glorious age of light, a time long awaited by all humanity. We thank you for guiding us to your divine plan and for the privilege of channeling and receiving Johrei. May our spirits and bodies be illuminated and purified as we live your truths given to us by Meishu-sama. Make us pure and effective instruments of your divine light, so that we may serve you and all those with whom we come in contact. May paradise on earth be realized, with health, peace, and prosperity, a reality in our lives. Great God of light, bless and protect us. Radiate our souls with your divine light, so that we may truly become instruments of your great plan. Please be seated. We will now receive group Johrei. Johrei is now concluded. We will now listen to a reading from Meishu-sama's teachings. Righteousness. I have come to the realization that those who trust God and live each day leaning upon the staff of love have nothing to fear in this world. Only those who live life virtuously and have clear consciences are not afraid of what others think or say, for they know they are loved by God. Even if the path is narrow and obstructed by dark forces, we will proceed humbly and obediently according to God's will. I feel the surest way to judge the character of an individual is by learning how much or how little sense of righteousness he or she has. A sense of righteousness is, as it were, the backbone of a human being. A person with little sense of righteousness is like a jellyfish without a backbone. Such a person is undependable, so we cannot feel safe. In dealing with any problem, we should first ask ourselves whether a particular solution is right or wrong. If you have determined that it is not right, you should unflinchingly resist it with all your moral strength. If you live with this principle, even though you may temporarily experience difficulty, in the long run, everything will work out for the best. In whatever situation you may find yourself, it is best and most pleasant to keep on the right path at all times, doing things openly and honestly without fear. People with that kind of character can be the pillars of the world and the guardians of righteousness. It is through the strength of such individuals that a wholesome society can be developed. For God always stands by those who are righteous and just.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining the evening service of the Miroku Association headquarters. This evening, I want to share the faith experience of Lucia Francisco from the Eco Campo Johrei Center, Luanda, Angola. Lucia Francisco is not a member yet. She's a regular visitor and was introduced to our church through her sister, to whom she's deeply grateful. The reason that led her to visit the church were illnesses, family conflicts, and financial difficulties. In early 2018, she started having problems with insomnia and had bad dreams. She dreamed of coffins, bird traps, and heard voices indoors. These dreams triggered illnesses such as malaria, typhoid fever, and coughing up blood with pus for 2 years. To solve these problems, Lucia went to hospitals, took many medicines, but without any success. Her paternal family, seeing her condition, took her to Kimbanda folk healing houses, where she underwent treatments that also had no effect. Thus, the maternal family, being religious, came into conflict with the paternal side of the family. Due to the aforementioned situation, Lucia's older sister, who was in Italy for studies in the divinity area, had to return to Angola. Sometime later, her older sister started to get sick until she departed to the spiritual realm. And to make matters worse, some family members said that Lucia was to blame for her sister's death. Lucia and her husband were jobless and lived in extreme poverty. They decided to rent their house and live in a place farther away from the family to escape the relationship problems with their other relatives. They sold some of their belongings to pay bills and to continue the folk healing treatments. One day, one of these healers, where she underwent treatments without success, advised her to look for our church, being a place in which they offer flowers. It was in this context of suffering that Lucy's younger sister, who had already visited the Johrei Center, took Lucia there. She was received by a missionary who guided her into our basic practices of faith that she carried out without difficulties, and in a short time, all her suffering was overcome. To express her gratitude, Lucia made a special donation. Another faith experience that she would like to share with us is related to the fulfillment of the guidance she received. Earlier this month of November of this year, her eldest son, who works as a security guard in a company, was assaulted by criminals, taking the weapon he used during working hours. Fortunately, he did not suffer any physical injuries. His boss, the owner of the company, complained to the authorities, and her son was immediately arrested. The days went by, but the police said nothing, not even asking for a bond to get him out of prison. Very confused, Lucia went to the Johrei Center in search of a guidance. Her ministers led her to the altar, and together they prayed with a donation to express gratitude for that purification. The minister also guided her to have committed hours cleaning the altar room and guide others by distributing flower arrangements. She began to comply with the guidance received, where she distributed about 100 flowers of light and guided 10 people that never heard of Johrei before. One day, she was fulfilling her mission in the altar room when her husband called, saying that the police sent to them what they were asking 80,000 kwanzas to get their son out of jail. She went before Meishu-sama's picture and prayed, handing the problem into his hands. As she didn't have such amount, she suggested to her husband to let God act upon their lives and that at any moment Meishu-sama would perform a miracle. They continued to pray, and some time later, the police called again, this time asking for just 30,000 kwanzas. After his release from jail, her son started to attend our church. With his commitment to his dedications and receiving Johrei, in a short period of time, he got a better job than the previous one. With these blessings received, Lucia materialized a special donation of gratitude. She learned that when we wholeheartedly follow the guidance from the ministers, God and Meishu-sama release us from various sufferings. Lucia is very grateful to the Supreme God, Meishu-sama, and her ancestors for allowing her to be introduced to this wonderful path of salvation. And another experience I want to share with you this evening is from Gustavo Silva Pedroso from Mato Grosso do Sul, Brazil. Gustavo is 12 years old, and his parents and grandparents are missionaries of our church. He was a very isolated child, didn't play at school, was constantly alone, and was so easily irritated and angry. He had difficulty learning what was taught, so his school performance was not adequate, and he had failed for 2 years in a row. Because of his difficulty, some people commented that he could never go out alone. In 2016, his teacher told his parents that he probably had a problem. From then on, his family intensified the channeling of Johrei on him. He often slept and woke up receiving Johrei. His grandfather began a Monday dedication at the church, and Gustavo would go with him. He spent the whole day dedicating and receiving Johrei. After a while, he made friends, started talking to other children, playing with them, and having fun. His grandmother gives Johrei assistance in people's homes, and Gustavo began to join her on her visits. One of these families even gave him a gift, a ticket to travel to the sacred grounds of Guarapiranga. Gustavo was thrilled with such a gift. This year, he will not fail at school. He now has a normal life, studying and playing like any other child. He feels that everything is due to the love of his grandparents and mainly Meishu-sama, who brought Johrei to change people's lives. Thus, he wants to continue receiving and channeling a lot of Johrei. Very nice experience from Gustavo, Mato Grosso, Brazil. Thank you very much for attending this evening service, listening to these wonderful faith experiences. I wish you a wonderful evening and a wonderful rest of this weekend. Thank you very much.
This brings to a conclusion our evening service. Thank you everyone for joining us, and have a blessed evening.